You are listening to STR, the Sandy Times Radio, culture, music, and beyond.
Can't tell where you covered in that center bag? Keep on listening. The Sandy Times is exploring the rich history of signature bags and how fashion houses successfully translated their legacy to fit our modern lifestyle. Wacky, kooky, and quirky. Hi everyone, this is the Eat Bag Fashion Podcast on STR. This season, we explore iconic accessories. Each episode will explore one of the hottest bags on the market. Today, we dive into the universe of Schiaparelli. Turn your volume up. Strange fashion. Surrealism has influenced some of the biggest fashion names in the last 50 years. In 1971, Yves Saint Laurent used the sequin leaf motif for his collection. In 1986, Marc Jacobs made a dress featuring handprints at the waist. In 1999, John Galliano casted a team of men to help in displaying a voluminous wedding dress. In the last decade, Moschino sent the internet into a frenzy with some striking designs like the McDonald's fries and the toothpaste bags. And in November 2024, they released their latest wacky creation, the celery bag. Surrealism continues to influence fashion, advertising, and graphics. But these daring and eyebrow-raising designs would not have seen the light of day if it wasn't for Elsa Schiaparelli, the visionary woman who put surrealism on the map of the fashion world. She wittily transformed handbags into whimsical, exquisitely produced, highly decorated pieces of art. And her legacy lives on till this very day. The mother of unconventional. Blurring the boundaries of the conventional, creating seasonal collections revolving around a specific theme, establishing art-fashion collaborations, coming up with knitwear pattern designs, inventing poetic names for colors like shocking pink, royal blue, wheat yellow, and ice blue. Elsa Schiaparelli pioneered all of these concepts that we take for granted today. But who was she? Let us discover the life and tales of this Italian fashion designer. Elsa was a firm fixture on the early 20th century international art scene. She's definitely one of the most extraordinary, innovative, and radical designers of the last century. Schiaparelli's career spanned over 40 years, but she marked history with her 1930s surrealist designs. Elsa was the first to introduce clothes that were wearable art. She always insisted that fashion design was another means of artistic expression. From her perspective, fashion was not a job, but an art form in its own right. Born in Rome, Schiaparelli hailed from a family of rich intellectuals. Her mother was a wealthy aristocrat raised in palaces. Her father was the dean of the University of Rome and a scholar in Islamic and Arabic studies. Her uncle was a renowned astronomer. Elsa moved to Paris in 1922, where she settled in really well. France became her adoptive homeland. Surprisingly for a fashion designer, Elsa did not sew and barely sketched. In spite of that, she became a freelance designer. In 1932, despite the Great Depression, Elsa opened her Parisian shop located on 4 Rue de la Paix. Her simple yet ingenious idea was a neat pullover with a black and white optical illusion motif. The sweater was instantly described as a masterpiece by Vogue. Elsa's later innovations included the use of zips as decorative elements, and imaging a backless evening gown with a secret compartment. The perfect dress for any Bond girl. But Elsa was far away from these beauty standards. People didn't beat around the bush to tell her that. Also, she was barely 1.5 meters tall. However, Elsa used this perceived weakness to her advantage. She designed clothes that were high-waisted, broad-shouldered, and elongated the figure. thus creating her signature aesthetic. From the outset, the bold and flashy designs of Elsa were destined for independent women with strong personalities and a high sense of confidence. Just like her, some of her famous clients were Wallace Simpson, Marlene Dietrich, Katharine Hepburn, and Greta Garbo, because they were well aware that a Schiaparelli was a piece designed to stand out. A dream world. A jacket with an image of a smashed mirror, beetle-like buttons, a telephone-shaped black velvet handbag. These are some of Schiaparelli's most sensational surrealist designs. The avant-garde surrealists rejected rational and formal approach in favor of creating a dream world full of fantasy. They explored unconsciousness, the use of colorful imagery, and the creation of shocking elements. Elsa was fascinated by this movement, and she made a point of being surrounded by like-minded friends. They embraced and encouraged her creative spirit. Elsa was caught once saying, "One felt supported and understood beyond the crude and boring reality of merely making a dress to sell." Between 1934 and 1940, at the peak of her power, Schiaparelli used the biggest names of surrealism. But there is one who would become her best friend and partner in redefining what is possible: Salvador Dalí. A surrealist at heart, Elsa Schiaparelli was the first couturier to elevate the handbag into artwork. The first collaboration between Schiaparelli and Dalí was a compact powder case that had a foam of a rotary phone dial. That was followed by the piano bag, the telephone bag, the Chinese lantern bag, and the folded newspaper bag. And then came the 1936 with the bag cage inspired by René Magritte painting, La Modèle Rouge. Not to be topped by the 1938 light-on bag. This bag had two internal light bulbs that backlit a hinged mirror with a compartment for lipstick and a Dalí engraving. Schiaparelli became known for her handbags that would be mistaken for ordinary objects. The handbags that hide in plain sight, yet they are center stage. Schiaparelli's distinctive approach influenced other designers. Everyone started to crave a handbag that became the talking point of others. The handbag had transcended its mundane function, and it gained a new dimension. But Latour Paris was not fully on board. Rivals. Schiaparelli was an eccentric designer, and she fully assumed it. Christian Dior accused her of creating elitist couture that spoke only to painters and poets. But all critics were tame compared to Chanel's contempt. Chanel wanted to emancipate women by allowing them to live without constraints. Hence her hatred for corsets, which was out of touch with the requirements of an active lifestyle. Whereas Schiaparelli embodied the opposite end of the spectrum. Her mantra was, never fit a dress to the body, but train the body to fit the dress. In Gabrielle's eyes, Elsa was pushing women into a world of fantasies. Both ladies had diametrically opposite fashion views. Chanel was known for straight cuts, tweed fabric, and the black and white plaid, while Schiaparelli was renowned for using new textile designs to create bright colored clothes that offered an exaggerated silhouette. Chanel saw couture as a profession, while Schiaparelli has always considered it an art. Therefore, in the 1930s, no Parisian rivalry was so tense as Chanel versus Schiaparelli. Paris was divided. Women on the streets were dressed in Chanel, while women in the intellectual salons were dressed in Schiaparelli. But the train of change was underway. The 1930s marked as the beginning of the golden age of mass traveling. Cars and cruise ships started replacing carriages. Commercial airplanes weren't far off from entering the scene. As a result of these mobility changes, large and bulky trunks were no longer in need. To know more, go back to the episode 5 and discover the story of the oldest luggage makers, Goyard and Louis Vuitton. trunk manufacturers shifted to creating luggage, and fashion designers had to reposition themselves as well. They shifted from creating evening clutches to travel handbags. Chanel and Schiaparelli saw in their own respective handbag lines another battleground to prove the superiority of their own beliefs. But as handbags transitioned from a decorative accessory to a functional object, Schiaparelli designs became irrelevant. The last nail in the coffin for Elsa was the demise of a cosmopolitan and transatlantic lifestyle in 1939. The Second World War brought life to a halt. Elsa Schiaparelli and Gabrielle Chanel closed their shops, biding their time for a post-war comeback. Both women tried to revive their careers after the war, but only one made it. A new Paris. In 1935, Schiaparelli Couture House had moved to the Hôtel de Fontpertuis. It was, and still is, located on 21 Place Vendôme. Spanning over 98 rooms, divided along 5 floors, and run by 700 employees, the building housed the boutique. But Elsa couldn't stay there for long. Europe was a political tinderbox, so she moved to New York, only to return a decade later in 1945. Learning from that episode, Elsa decided to create a traveling wardrobe for her comeback. It was a capsule collection made of 6 dresses, 1 reversible coat, and 3 folding hats. All of these items weighed less than 6 kilograms, but in Elsa's fashion, the chosen textile wasn't mundane. It was embellished with great sparkling stars, earning it the name of the Constellation Collection. It was positively received by the critics and public alike. Everyone believed that Schiaparelli was back. In 1947, Hubert de Givenchy was even recruited as a creative director to usher in a new era. But it proved to be a false dawn. In 1951, Givenchy left Schiaparelli to create his own label. In the meantime, the world was evolving, and so was Paris. The ladies wanted to move away from couture. They found in ready-to-wear the perfect alternative. We talk at length about this in our episode 8 on Chloe, so don't forget to play it next. Schiaparelli's surrealism fell out of fashion, so she closed her shop for a second time in 1954. Unfortunately, Elsa won't be around to see the third reopening. The Heir. By 2012, the Italian businessman Diego Della Valle had managed to acquire the rights of the Schiaparelli brand. He even bought the historic boutique located at Hôtel de Fontpertuis, but Schiaparelli had to wait 2 more years to officially resume its activity. A 70-year absence ended with the brand's participation at the 2014 Fashion Week. The label had a shaky restart. 3 creative directors came and went, but the 4th appointment was a charm. In 2019, Schiaparelli hired a young and dynamic Texan to reverse its fortunes. Under Daniel Roseberry's helm, the house produced genius designs that were regularly purchased by A-listers. For instance, Lady Gaga wore Schiaparelli to sing the United States of America's national anthem at the inauguration of President Joe Biden. We're talking about the giant black and red dress with the gilded brass dove brooch. Also, Schiaparelli featured in more casual and light-hearted occasions like the Kardashians' parties. On Christmas 2020, Kim Kardashian wore an all-green look with a high-sleeved skirt and a solid bustier, creating an illusion of a muscular masculine torso. On social media, we called it the Hulk outfit. But who is this Roseberry guy? How did he manage to charm all these celebrities? And how did he become referred to as Elsa's heir? Well, Daniel Roseberry had served 10 years alongside Thom Browne, an internationally renowned American fashion designer, in an important yet invisible position. So Daniel was virtually unknown to the public and only familiar to insiders. However, nothing predestined him to such heights. After a difficult period, Daniel took a sabbatical that didn't go exactly according to plan. Instead of recharging his batteries and rejoining the industry, he fell into prolonged unemployment. However, Daniel didn't twiddle his thumbs. He took time to build his own aesthetics and codes, while hoping that his introspective development isn't a waste of time. Suddenly, the universe rewarded him with a phone call. Out of the blue, Daniel was offered the position of creative director at Schiaparelli, a fitting scenario for a house famed for surrealism. Don't you think so? In his own words, that call was like an out-of-body experience. Moral of the story: prepare and work as if your dream is reality. So when opportunity knocks on your door, calls your phone, or slides in your direct messages, you're ready to shine. Capturing the bravery. Nearly 100 years later, Roseberry reintroduced Schiaparelli to the world. A new generation of surrealism lovers finally have something to look out for. Yet, Daniel made it very clear that he's not trying to copy Elsa, a trap that his predecessors have fallen into. Instead, Roseberry firmly announced, "I have no interest in echoing the archives. I'm more interested in capturing the spirit and bravery of Schiaparelli." Following this logic, Roseberry's handbags are less objects of art and more functional, yet still kooky. If you follow Schiaparelli, then you have definitely seen the Anatomy jewelry bag. It is the label's current It bag. It is the bag with a face on it. 2 eyes, 1 nose, and 2 lips made out of enamel, rhinestones, and gold brass. The regular version is priced at $7,300 US, and the mini at $5,800 US. In typical Schiaparelli style, a more surrealist version, the Anatomy jewelry triple bag, has been listed. It is also sold at $7,300 US. All versions come in different colors. As for materials, we have options like cough, lamb, crackled or lizard leather, and even more eccentric options like shearling, cotton or raffia.
Hey everyone, this is Sophie, the host of the Creative Hour podcast on SDR. And I'm also a happy owner of the Anatomy jewelry bag. And I think styling Schiaparelli bags is about embracing the surrealism and boldness that defines the brand. These are not just accessories. These are conversation starters for sure, art pieces that reflect your ideas and emotions. I pair my Anatomy jewelry bag with an elegant monochromatic outfit to let the bag shine as a vocal point. Or I also know that people tend to lean into Schiaparelli's quickness by matching it with equally avant-garde attire, like exaggerated silhouettes or vibrant clashing patterns. Remember, the goal isn't to blend in or to be normal. It's Schiaparelli is about standing out, and the Schiaparelli bag elevates your look into a statement of fearless creativity.
Let us remember that the house peaked in the 1930s and ceased operations in the 1950s. So, if you want a piece of Schiaparelli, then getting your hands on one of the current designs is your best shot. Vintage Schiaparelli bags are an extremely rare find. Any original design is anywhere between 80 and 100 years old. They are either lost or part of private collections. The closest we can get to them is by looking at the pictures online and in fashion history books. But for the surrealist lover among us, we don't really need a handbag to show our boldness to the world. We live and breathe Elsa's rebellious attitude on a daily basis by loudly flaunting our wackiness, kookiness, and quirkiness.